Keynes Hayek, The Clash That Defined Modern Economics, by Nicholas Wapshott. Narrated by Gildart Jackson. Copyright 2011 by Nicholas Wapshott. This unabridged audiobook is published by arrangement with W. W. Norton and Company Incorporated and was produced in the year 2011 by Tantor Media Incorporated, which holds the copyright thereto. Preface. It was, perhaps, the most unusual episode in the long-running duel between the two giants of 20th century economic thought. During World War II, John Maynard Keynes and Friedrich Hayek spent all night together, alone, on the roof of the chapel in King's College, Cambridge. Their task was to gaze at the skies and watch for German bombers aiming to pour incendiary bombs on the small, picturesque cities of England. In the spring and summer of 1942, in retaliation against British bombing of the medieval cities Lübeck, which sheltered a U-boat lair, and Rostock, home to the Heinkel bomber works, German planes bombed a string of English cities that held no strategic value. Exeter, Bath, and York endured flamestorms that put their ancient buildings at risk. The British headline writers came up with the phrase, the Baedeker Blitz, because it seemed the Luftwaffe planners were selecting British targets by consulting the German guidebook that rated cities according to their cultural worth. Though Cambridge held few important war industries, it warranted its place in the Nazi menu of devastation for its collegiate university founded in the Middle Ages. Night after night, the faculty and students of King's, armed with shovels, took turns to man the roof of the ornate Gothic chapel, whose foundation stone was laid by Henry VI in 1441. The first watchman of St. Paul's Cathedral in London had discovered that there was no recourse against an exploding bomb, but if an incendiary could be tipped over the edge of the parapet before it set fire to the roof, damage could be kept to a minimum. And so Keynes, just short of 60 years old, and Hayek, aged 41, sat and waited for the impending German onslaught, their shovels propped against the limestone balustrade. They were joined by a common fear that they would not emerge brave or nimble enough to save their venerable stone charge. It was particularly fitting that the two economists should defy the Nazi peril, for both, in different ways, had foreseen the coming of the National Socialist tyranny and presaged the rise of Hitler. Keynes was a young economic don at King's, when at the outbreak of World War I he was recruited by the Treasury, the British Finance Ministry, to raise money from Wall Street to finance the Allies' efforts. Once the war was brought to an end in 1918, Keynes was kept on to advise how best to squeeze reparations from the defeated Germans. What Keynes found at the peace talks in Paris shocked him. While the victorious Allied leaders, sparked by vengeance, relished the misery they hoped to inflict on the German nation by severe financial penalties, Keynes saw the issue in a quite different light. He believed that to deliberately beggar a modern trading nation like Germany was to impose crippling poverty on its citizens, which would provide the conditions for extreme politics, insurrection, even revolution. Rather than bringing a just end to World War I, Keynes thought the Treaty of Versailles was planting the seeds of World War II. Back home, he penned The Economic Consequences of the Peace, a devastating indictment of the folly of the Allied leaders. The book was a bestseller worldwide and propelled Keynes into the international limelight as an economist with the common touch. Keynes's caustic eloquence was not lost on Hayek, a young soldier in the Austrian army on the Italian front, who returned to find his home of Vienna devastated and its people's confidence broken. Hayek and his family suffered from the precipitous inflation that soon beset the Austrian economy. He saw his parents' savings melt away, an experience that was to permanently harden him against those who advocated inflation as a cure for a broken economy. He was determined to prove that there was no simple solutions to intractable economic problems, and came to believe that those who advocated large-scale public spending programs to cure unemployment were inviting not just uncontrollable inflation, but political tyranny. Although both Keynes